Finovate showcases cutting-edge banking and financial technology through a global conference series featuring short-form demos and thought leadership. Now, the conversation continues on the Finovate podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Finovate podcast. We've got a fun one for you today. We are talking to two executives from Everbank. Joining me, we have Christine Martin, the SVP and Head of Treasury Management, and Colby Mangers, SVP of Digital Innovation and Transformation. Thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Greg.
Glad to be here.
So to kick things off, Christine, I'd like to come to you first and just have you give us a quick background on Everbank and kind of where you would say you are right now in your digital journey.
Sure. So Everbank has a really interesting history, like many banks today. The bank was originally created in the 90s and then became Everbank, everbank.com, in 2002, and it was primarily an online brand. In 2017, it was acquired by TIAA, which then rebranded the bank as TIAA Bank. And then almost exactly a year ago, the bank was spun off from TIAA and once again became Everbank. So at that time, we moved from a thrift to a national charter under new leadership with our CEO, Greg Siebele, and our president, David DePillo. So, we're in a really exciting chapter of our history as, we deepen our commitment to our existing customers, our consumers, and our commercial customer bases, but also start to look at our digital transformation and our customer-focused journey as we continue to move forward and broaden into different customer bases.
Yeah, well, and certainly I think every bank is undergoing some transformation, but you certainly have had quite a bit of change over the past little bit. I'll talk more about that later on, but before I'd like to get a little bit more on each of your backgrounds. So, Colby, I'll come to you. Can you tell us a little bit more about what your role as the SVP of Digital Innovation and Transformation entails?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have the really fun role of leading our digital team. So in our digital space, I have responsibility for the consumer digital channels. And then I also partner with Christine on our commercial and payment systems. As we kind of alluded to before, we've done that transition from a thrift to a commercial bank, with accelerated growth plan. So think of us as almost, a $40 billion de novo, even though we've been around for a long time. So with that, we have this growth plan, but then we also have some of this legacy tech stack and legacy processes. So the other part of my team is the automation and the transformation activities within our bank, specifically the deposit and the business lending business lines. So we're trying, something a little unique in that my team has the view across the entire enterprise. So when we look at areas that need automated or transformed, we can ensure that we're not executing in a silo, but rather across all the business lines that we serve. So think of us really as the liaison between operations, the business line, and technology. So it's a really fun team. I get to play both in the digital space and then helping see the business really transform its processes and automate things. So it's been a lot of fun, and we got a lot of work to do ahead of us.
Yeah, no, certainly you would have you'd be involved in a lot of different projects and initiatives, and so it's really cool. Though I love the idea that you really want to make sure those silos don't happen. That's such a dangerous thing that can happen. So, Christine, how about you? Same question for you. What does your role end up looking like? As obviously, more of the treasury management side of things.
Yeah, so I am actually closing out my 6th month at Everbank. So I'm kind of still defining that. But, treasury management means different things at different companies. And Everbank has offered treasury management to its customer base for many years. So this is not a new discipline for us, but really taking the group and putting it together with a focus on treasury management. That's what's new for us. So part of my job right now is building out that group, that department, that focus and discipline within the bank. And what's really cool, like Colby just talked about, is that we're closely aligned. So Colby has a very horizontal organization. So I reach into his organization on a regular basis for resources. And especially as we're building out all of our new infrastructure and our new technology. So at the core, I'm responsible for product operations and sales. And my focus to date has been on the build out of our technology, but I'm really starting to transition into focusing on how we operate going forward.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds great. And I think everybody listening now will be able to understand why I was so excited to have both of you on the line at the same time. And I'd like to just jump right in and ask a question that I'm sure is kind of top of mind for a lot of our listeners who are coming from the fintech innovation side. I'm sure you both have no shortage of fintech companies reaching out to you to pitch their services. What advice do you have for fintechs who are looking to break through the noise and reach someone like yourselves? Colby, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. As with everyone today, we're just very, very busy, and we want to invest our times on things that's going to help the bank execute the plan. So my recommendation is honestly very basic. Spend time researching the bank. We get so many times we were Everbank, then we became TIA Bank, then now we're Everbank. I can't tell you how many times I get a voicemail or a call that actually says, hey, we can help TIA Bank. And that's just an immediate, it's out. I'm not even going to spend time on it because the person hasn't done their research. But it truly goes back to, knowing the audience and ensure that it is relevant to my role. Don't spam me with repeated emails and phone calls. Send one email or one voicemail. And if I'm interested, I'm going to reach back out.
Yeah. No, I think certainly we've all been the victim of the kind of super aggressive sales or marketing team. Being able to write one good email or have one good phone call and kind of let it rest is a really difficult discipline to master, but it's so important. What advice do you have for people in terms of what that one email or what that one phone call should look like? What kind of makes it something where you think that's actually intriguing enough that I'm going to make sure I give them a call back?
Yeah, there obviously are a lot of the banks in the U.S., but it's actually a very small community, and we're all very well connected. So if you have a customer, right, and you can see that we are all connected on LinkedIn, name drop them, right? That is probably one of the best ways. It gives you instant credibility. But I would say the other thing too is, let us know how many customers you have, that you have a strong financial, backing, and it's not just vaporware. But again, be very, very specific to my role and to what I'm doing at the bank, because that's going to grab my attention. If you say something, in the financial world, like the financing and accounting world, I'm probably not going to touch that right away. And believe it or not, I get a lot on the HR space too, right? And I'm not doing anything today with HR. So that's probably the biggest thing. Just make it very specific. Talk about, how strong the company is and how many customers you have. So I know that, I'm not going to be really the guinea pig per se.
Yeah. Christine, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just to add on to what Colby said, I totally agree. Do your research, use your contacts. I feel like we are all one or two contacts away from each other when we look at in places like LinkedIn. And I look at it like a job hunt. You can either spend your time sending out your resume to hundreds of search engines and probably not get any responses, or you can use your network. You can leverage your network to find that really unique job opening and land in a great spot. The last thing I would add here is, we're working with a vendor right now, a fintech who I've known the partner, the salesperson for years and years and years, and we've never done any business together. And we've kept in contact for many, many years, and now we are finally moving forward together. So that's the longevity of that contact and the importance of having the relationships in the industry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think both of the things, or the things that you're both saying are relatively simple in theory, and they're kind of easy to see why that would make sense. But we know from experience how difficult it can be to put them into practice. I get emails myself that are, if you had done even a modicum of research on what Finovate is, you would never send. People offering me, database services, accounting services, Colby, to your point, HR services, and it's baffling to me because I'm not a bank. I don't have anything I can do for you. I have no way to engage with your technology. And if you reach out trying to sell me something, I'm just going to turn right around and sell you on coming to Finovate, where you can find people who can actually use your technology. But certainly there is a lot of this kind of shotgun approach. And I think it's never really effective. Much more targeted, much more personal, proving that you understand the needs and priorities of the person that you're reaching out to is such a crucial aspect and so easy to overlook. I'd like to switch gears here and talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that you've both overseen recently at Everbank. What would you say your priorities have been as you've looked to engage new technologies and kind of go through all of these different changes that you've undergone over the past couple of years?
Yeah, I'll start and then I'll turn it over to Christine. She can talk more about the specifically the treasury area. But when we look at the bank overall, our president likes to say we're doing 5 years of projects in 24 months. And to be honest with you, that is not a lie. We truly are. I think all except like 3 of our systems, are changing over the course of just a couple years. But my focus right now has been on the consumer digital platform, as well as some of the automation items that we have going on, as well as assisting Christine in some of her treasury management priorities. But the other things that we're really working on is we're building all new lending platforms, or I should say rolling out new lending platforms as well. But when we look at kind of the importance of those, we really start with the technology, making sure it's built on newer technology and it's an API first platform. And then we try to find the right fintech partners after that. We know that most companies aren't going to be good at all things. So we got to find that niche provider that is really going to put their capital to work for us rather than us having to spend our capital on different things. So it has been a lot right now. Basically, every single platform in our company has been touched.
Yeah, that's no small undertaking. Christine, how about your perspective?
Yeah, I have a little bit different perspective because I'm focused on a pretty narrow customer base, and that's treasury. And so treasury departments in corporations are typically really underfunded, they're understaffed, they're not doing terribly exciting work from a product development and an outward PR perspective. But it's incredibly important for the ongoing longevity of the company. And so, their needs haven't really changed over time. They need to, get money in, get money out, do something with the cash while it's sitting at the company. And so, at the base of everything I'm focused on, as cool as the technology is, I still need to meet that fundamental need of the Treasury Department. So, my top priority is balancing the technology and using that technology to say, how can I give that staff some time back? How can I streamline the work that they're doing so that they maybe have to use less keystrokes or have fewer but smarter authentication and approval techniques? And so, it's balancing the technology and all of the bells and whistles along with, fundamentally cash movement. So, it's interesting to think of it that way.
Could I add something on just to what Christine said? It's funny because Christine mentioned too, how in her space there hasn't been a whole lot of innovations, but the one thing that we've noticed as we've kind of been working with her team on the kind of commercial side is how important it was for us to be able to have kind of that plug and play to put in the best of breed solutions because of just the payment space, right? You have the clearinghouse, you have, payment hubs kind of becoming a very popular thing. But then the biggest thing is we're going out and getting a different client base than what we ever had before. All of a sudden, this notion of this headless core to facilitate those payments have become a big deal. So it's been really fun kind of looking at that shift in that landscape as we've been going through some of the projects that we've been working on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're coming up on the end of our time, but I do have just a couple more questions for you. And the first one is just, kind of talking a little bit about some of the initiatives you have. Are there any specific partnerships or relationships that you want to highlight that have been especially fruitful?
Yeah, I can start on that, and then I'm gonna hand it off to Colby to give you some more insight. But we're working with Backbase on the development of our commercial digital platform, and it's been incredibly interesting. And like I talked about, looking at the Treasury Department and looking at the business functions within companies and looking at it a different way and finding more streamlined ways to accomplish the same thing and give those businesses some time back. And one area where I think that we've had the biggest difference is that at Everbank and at Backbase, we absolutely have our senior and our executive leadership behind us 100%. And they listen to us, they advise us. We talk with Backbase's executive leadership, across the board. And I think that's been really, really critical in terms of the development of the relationship and our ability to drive innovation in both companies at a speed which, I don't think any of us were prepared for, and at a complexity that we probably weren't prepared for. So very important to have that relationship first as you're moving into these technical partnerships.
Yeah, for sure. Colby, you want to jump in?
Yeah, the other kind of two that I would say that we've really had the pleasure working with as well has been Finsley, who is really the backbone of our payment hub. They have really kind of helped us look at some of the ways to handle payments in a different manner. So that's been a very positive relationship as well. But the other thing I would just recommend is don't always count out some of the bigger players. I mentioned earlier that we're moving to a new online consumer banking platform as well, and FIS has actually brought to us quite a few of the fintechs that they're partnering with. Personetics, Atomic, and some of their AI solutions as well. So, we would have never thought to even pursue some of these without, their guidance as well.
Yeah, no, I think obviously getting that guidance can be really helpful. And, coming back to kind of the earlier point, recognizing who, what connections you have in common, what relevant experience you have. Obviously, those things just make it so much easier for someone in your position to feel confident about going forward and working with someone. We were talking a little bit before we pushed record about, some of the pieces around how the Backbase partnership came to be. And there were some interesting things that they did, which ended up making it really easy for you to decide to work with them. But, you didn't actually initially decide to use them. And there were some things that they did immediately after that, which kind of put themselves back in the running. And also on the flip side, you initially wanted to go with somebody else and ended up having kind of a relationship that didn't go very far. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And Backbase was always one of our, top picks, and it was just getting everyone kind of comfortable with, being a newer entrant in the U.S. kind of online banking space, and especially to treasury management. But everything we heard, we really liked. But at the end of the day, we ended up selecting another provider that was a little bit more established in the marketplace, and we had gotten to kind of our initial 3-day kickoff meeting. And on the first day of that kickoff meeting, we actually unanimously decided that, wow, we made the wrong decision. And it was all based on things that were told to us during the sales cycle. We really realized that maybe that wasn't the case. Maybe it wasn't completely all there. The other two things that I would say kind of along those same lines is, we're relatively new to the commercial space, and we realized that we were really going to be a small fish in a big pond, and it was not going to be a collaborative working environment. It was going to be the vendor telling us what we needed to do and how we needed to do it, rather than creating that unique experience for our customer base. So it was just kind of shocking that it was unanimous. And then, kudos to Backbase, because when we told them that they had been down selected, just the way they handled that in the most professional way and said, hey, we understand, it was a business decision, but if something changes or you need us, even if you want to ask us questions about things, along the way, we are happy to help. And, a month later, we were calling them back and saying, guess what? We're going with you. So it was just how they handled things from through the whole process. It just set them apart.
Yeah. Well, I think a couple of lessons to pull out of this immediately. One is, obviously maintain the relationship above all else. I think both of you have talked about long-term relationships paying off. And it is possible in a moment where you receive some bad news to act in such a way that you eliminate the possibility of working with somebody ever again, it's also possible to put yourself back into contention. Things are always moving, things are always shifting. You just don't know. And it's really important for any company to make sure that they're handling themselves in a way that makes it easy for somebody to come back down the road and say, hey, yeah, let's actually put something together. And I think the other piece that really is important to highlight is just because you have a signed contract doesn't necessarily mean that you've got that business locked down, right? I think there's a lot of companies in the space who view the signed contract as that's the finish line, when in reality, that's the starting line. And if you can't deliver on what your salespeople were promising, it is always possible to have something that looks really promising pulled out from underneath you if you don't keep your eyes focused where they need to be. So we've run a little bit long here, and I'm not sorry about that. I think it's been a good conversation, but I'm afraid we do have to end it here. I want to thank both Colby and Christine for taking time to chat with us. Good luck to both of you with the incredibly busy schedules that you must have to get everything done. And thanks for sharing some of your time with me and with our listeners.
Thank you. Very much appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
The Finovate podcast is produced by Informa Connect in association with Provoke.fm Media. Check out Finovate.com for information on Finovate's upcoming shows and to learn how you can get involved. The discount code Finovate Podcast will save you 20% on tickets to all of our events. And you can email us at info@finovate.com for information on sponsoring, speaking, or demoing. Thanks for listening.